By authority of the mystic guardians of the universe, on the far distant planet Oa, Hal Jordan, test pilot, becomes the Green Lantern, a cosmic crusader whose magical power ring at his bidding accomplishes the impossible. In his continuing fight against interplanetary evil, Green Lantern, Guardian of the Galaxy.
I want to talk about the 2011 film Green Lantern. Directed by Martin Campbell, the man who gave us No Escape, Casino Royale, and GoldenEye, the film doesn't so much feel like it's directed by one person, but rather a committee. It boasts 4 different writers, which is usually not a good sign, and more than anything, I think that the writing is the worst part of the film. It was originally penned by a writer who had done mostly TV work, which is fine, along with 2 Green Lantern comic writers, and then there's a rewrite by Michael Goldenberg. If you're not familiar with Goldenberg, he's one of the geniuses behind the Contact movie. This may be one of my least favorite films ever.
By the way, did you ever see that movie, Contact? That movie was terrible!
Waited through that entire movie to see the alien and it was her goddamn father.
I recently watched an extended cut of the film which brings the running time up a little over 2 hours, which is far more than this film really needed. The new version begins with the story of the emerald green energy that Abin Sur used to capture the criminal Parallax. This new beginning also includes Parallax's escape, and a new bit where we see the childhood of our protagonist, Hal Jordan, including the death of his father. A superhero without a father figure? Perish the thought. Really, too much of the Green Lantern is about daddy issues. Hal's got daddy issues, and so does his quasi-human enemy, Hector Hammond. When we jump to present day, we still see Parallax is escaping, okay, and that the rascal Hal Jordan, now played by Ryan Reynolds, as some kind of hotshot pilot. And this is where my problems with the film really start to begin. We find out that Hal is irresponsible. More than showing us that Hal is irresponsible, the film feels that it should tell us that he is, which kind of violates that old screenwriting tenet of show, don't tell. Hal's co-pilot gets on his butt for nearly being late to a test flight. That makes people mad.
I think you're late.
Yes, but that's only because I slept in.
I used to sleep in. Then I turned 11. This is exactly why I didn't want you for this. My father did. And I would have gone with Jensen.
I'd have gone with Jensen too, but unfortunately he's busy not being good enough.
At least he shows up. Hal, this test today, it's important.
He succeeds in tricking the drones that he's supposed to defeat, but in doing so he has to sacrifice his own plane. That makes people mad too.
Yeah, I may be a total screw-up than every other part of my life, but the one thing I do know how to do is fly.
And then he's late for his nephew's 11th birthday party, and yep, people are mad at him there as well. He may have been late, but at least he showed up. But maybe it's that Ryan Reynolds shtick that they're really kind of mad about. Apparently he's doing something right, as Abin Sur's ring chooses him to be the next Green Lantern. Despite this, his friend, who is pretty much a throwaway character,
said that the ring chose me. He said it was a great honor. Responsibility. Responsibility? Yeah. You? Maybe on their planet, responsibility just means asshole.
Hal's buddy may be a throwaway character, but so is his love interest. In fact, most of the characters in the film are just there because they're kind of expected. Well, Hal has to have a love interest, doesn't he? Well, yeah. Okay, well, let's get one of the girls from the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants over here right away. From there, we're taken to the planet in the Green Lantern Corps, where we see Mark Strong, barely recognizable in his Sinestro makeup. One would think that if you got a guy around named Sinestro, you might want to keep your eye on him. Maybe it's not that trustworthy. But, you know, maybe Sinestro means faithful in Green Lantern talk. I guess having a character named Sinestro being kind of a giveaway is kind of like having Peter Sarsgaard in your film where he plays Hector Hammond, because, you know, Sarsgaard, I don't know if he's ever played a nice guy in a film. He's usually just kind of this creepy douche, and his creepy doucheness is in full effect in Green Lantern here. I'm not too familiar with too many DC comics. I was much more of a Marvel kid, and I really know nothing about Hector Hammond, but he sure reminds me of Dr. Samuel Stearns from the Hulk comics, who eventually becomes the villain known as Leader, but maybe that's just because they both have really big foreheads. Around 48 minutes into the film, Hal's transported to that Green Lantern planet. That's Uwa, the planet of the Green Lantern Corps, not Mogo, which is an actual planet, and a Green Lantern as well. At least I know that much about the Green Lanterns. This alleged training sequence, which is really like almost all computer generated, feels like the bulk of the film. It's also kind of the biggest time waster because he just kind of shows up, gets new clothes, gets to hang out with Sinestro, Kilowog, and Tormar-Ray, where we've got some really good actors who are pretty much just doing voice work. Jeffrey Rush and Michael Clark Duncan, and not a whole lot of stuff happens here. Kind of gets his ass handed to him by Sinestro, and then Hal returns to Earth with his tail between his legs. And, well, maybe he's not that responsible after all.
Well, technically speaking, I actually sort of quit.
What do you mean? How?
Well, I mean, it's a lot like quitting anything else, really.
I don't understand. How do you walk away from something like that? Is this even possible?
Well, I think we both know I'm pretty good at walking away.
You know, with all the talk about fear and Hal leaving his training, I was really reminded of Luke Skywalker's training over on Dagobah, but at least Luke kind of went back and finished up. When he goes back to Earth, he gets a chance to save Tim Robbins from an errant helicopter that was put in motion by Hector, who is actually Robbins' character's creepy son. And let's just note here that Robbins is only 13 years older than Peter Skarsgård, and it kind of shows. So not to worry, though. You know, Skarsgård will kill him in just a few scenes, so really saving him was just pretty much a time waster. We should pause here a second to talk about Hal Jordan's really fatal flaw, and that would be his lack of imagination. His ring allows him to create whatever he can think of, and here's a list of what he came up with to combat evil. A big fist, a machine gun, a chainsaw, a brick wall, a bigger machine gun, a catapult, a shield, 2 jet airplanes in space, and a racetrack.
A racetrack?
Yeah.
That's the best you could come up with for your first big appearance. Racetrack.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I disappoint you?
There's a big battle that takes place about an hour and a half into the film where Tim Robbins bites it. This is also where Hector and Hal touch one another and find out each other's secrets. I know how that sounds. Hal finds out that Parallax is still slowly heading to Earth, and by this time he's a big gas cloud with Clancy Brown's voice. He kind of reminds me of Galactus from the Silver Surfer Fantastic Four movie. He's just kind of floating out there, you know, just being menacing. Then, for whatever reason, Hal looks down for a second, and Hector disappears. Yeah, he looks back at the bad guy, who's kind of a human stand-in for Parallax, and then he's just gone, like a cheap Bond villain, which, luckily, gives us some time for some more expository dialogue, which in this movie is there in spades. We're often taking breaks for people to discuss recent events and what they should do. We even get the nugget of, let me get this straight.
Let me get this straight. This thing that's out there attacking planets is connected to Hector?
Somehow it infected him after it killed Heaven Sir.
Well, you're just gonna have to stop it.
Oh, I'm just gonna have to stop it. Well, I tried that and I failed. Then the senator died. I told you the ring made a mistake.
Wait, go back. How did the ring make a mistake?
The one thing that a Green Lantern is supposed to be is fearless. Fearless is the job description. That isn't me.
So you're just gonna walk away again? Explain this to me, Hal. Please explain to me just once why.
Because I'm afraid.
So like I said, Hal goes back to Uwa for no particular reason, other than for there to be more dialogue, blah, blah, blah. Things play out exactly as anyone who's ever seen a movie would think that they would. Darkness falls across the city as Parallax invades. People run away, or they try to. They kind of get turned into skeletons and dusty, kind of like War of the Worlds. Hal comes up with more dumb things to just kind of throw at Parallax without any effect. Luckily, Parallax is dumber than Hal Jordan, so he chases Jordan out into space, through a big asteroid field, and then, whoops, he gets kind of caught in the gravitational pull of the sun, which was kind of a throwaway line from the second act about gravity and everything. So, fortunately, they went with that throwaway bit rather than the whole freezing of the airplane in the upper atmosphere from earlier in the film in the first act, because that just would have been a complete ripoff of Iron Man. So, of course, Green Lantern was all set up for a sequel, ending with a bonus scene of Sinestro trying on a new yellow ring that somehow turns him evil or something. But, fortunately, the box office for this turkey precluded any sort of a follow-through. Of course, though, there are talks of a reboot in the works. Typical.
I know what it's like to be afraid. Let me help you.
Oh, you've changed. How wonderful that all it took for you to grow up was the end of the world.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's life.